Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, The Real Super Sam. Today I am reviewing another episode of Spider-Man the Animated Series and I hope you enjoy. Just watch me now. Just watch me now. I got something for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. Just watch me now. I got something for you, a little more for you. You won't believe your eyes. Just watch me now. Just watch me now. Just watch me now. Today is the start of something new I am doing. Hashtag SpiderMan Sundays. I use the hashtag on Twitter to promote my videos. I'm going to be uploading a Spider-Man related video to my channel every Sunday, so please subscribe for that. You have requested it, so I'm going to do it sooner rather than later. Spider-Man the Animated Series, the Alien Costume. Some consider these next 3 episodes the best in the series. I need to think a bit more, but right now I disagree. Sure, there's a lot of great moments from the trilogy, but there are some other episodes, even other two-parters, that I love. Spider-Man gets his black suit in this episode, and I have always loved the black suit. It just looks so cool. I love the first part because Spider-Man's in his classic red and blue, then you later see him in his black costume. I'm going to be reviewing every episode separately to dive a bit more in depth with each one. In this episode, we are introduced to the Rhino on the show, voiced by Don Stark. I like how here, Spider-Man is still pretty early in his career and hasn't fought many supervillains yet. He's cocky and acts entitled like he needs praise for every good thing he does. The black suit is a good reminder of Spider-Man's limitations, seeing how much more he can do without it, or with it. So the symbiote this time doesn't come from Secret Wars and instead from a space exploration on the moon. Coincidentally, the space exploration is headed by John Jameson, J. John Jameson's son, and at the Daily Bugle, the whole news crew is watching the TV story. But the spaceship goes wrong thanks to the symbiote, and the plane fails and comes crashing down to Earth. Everyone is heading for cover in case the plane crashes on top of them. Peter calls and tells Aunt May to head to the basement. Even the Kingpin knows about this, which I find fun. Someone like him, the biggest crime lord ever, is watching a silly little space story which suddenly turns into a life and death situation and worries even him. I love the moments that turn the supervillain of the episode into a regular guy, maybe even being a bit silly. The Kingpin starts evacuating, but Smythe tells him and argues with him that the plane won't hurt them. But here, there is a strange thing from the Kingpin to Alistair, a friendship because he asks Smythe that they should leave or there'll be explosive results. I recall liking that. Another moment where it seems like the Kingpin is more than just a criminal, which is the first time it's seen in the show ever here. Kingpin then calls someone to get Promethium X from the plane crash site. Of course, Rhino doesn't know what he's talking about. Spider-Man and J. John Jameson heads to the George Washington Bridge where it crashed. Venom and Eddie Brock are on the bridge already. Eddie actually almost gets hit by a freaking plane in this shot. Spider-Man shows up and sees the huddle door has been ripped open from the outside. Now it's action time. Here's the first time Spider-Man meets the Rhino in the series, and it does not disappoint. Spider-Man does the classic jump over Rhino's head and have him crash and get stuck in a wall move. There's some funny lines. One of the most standout things I've noticed with the Rhino is him in New Jersey. Here Spider-Man asks, "Where'd you come from?" and Rhino responds, "Jersey." "You got a claim track for that bag? Check this." Spider-Man is really cocky here and just jokes and plays around with Rhino. Rhino almost kills him at the end, and Spider-Man doesn't know how close he was to losing his life because of him being overconfident with the new supervillain. Spider-Man saves John's and the other astronaut's life and falls into the Hudson after going back to look for survivors. Eddie Brock tricks Jameson to think that Spider-Man caused the crash and hurt his son with pictures. JJJ hires him back after that and puts out an award for the capture of Spider-Man. Spider-Man leaves the Hudson with some black tar on his costume. Even after he fought a supervillain and saved the day, he still gets punished. The classic Spider-Man Parker luck. Apparently the Kingpin is going to sell Promethium X to the highest bidder. The Promethium has a bunch of potential nuclear energy. We see here that Spider-Man's Spider Tracer doesn't work in the Kingpin's HQ. When Peter gets home, he's so sure that Jameson is going to eat every word he ever said about Spider-Man being a menace because Spider-Man just saved his son. Dan gets real mad when he sees Jameson's $1 million reward for Spider-Man's capture. That night, the symbiote climbs onto Peter as Peter has a dream about the two costumes fighting. This is exactly like Amazing Spider-Man issue 258. Then he wakes up hanging upside down in a brand new suit. He soon finds out that this suit makes him more powerful. We see this as he battles everybody off of him, all of them gunning for the $1 million reward. It seems to me that the symbiote is telling him things to justify his actions about throwing around innocent people, like when he's all like, "What are you doing? I'm defending myself, that's what I'm doing." Here we see that the symbiote can change clothing. It is something I wish we saw in other forms of animation used a bit more creatively, but that's just me. The next day when he goes to school, there's a little joke regarding Aerosmith and the guy who sings the song's theme song. There's a little moment when Peter Parker stands up and pushes around Flash Thompson, the school bully. Peter doesn't see anything wrong with it, even after Felicia says her iconic line, "You are different, you scare me." The symbiote changes him automatically, it seems like. When he gets back and Aunt May tells Peter that she doesn't want him taking photos of Spider-Man anymore, Peter yells at her. The symbiote has changed him, but luckily for Spider-Man, the spider tracer planted on Rhino is working again. Spider-Man is more cocky now than ever, but with the black suit, he can take on Rhino easily. Rhino is in fact there for the equipment, so Smythe can test Prometheum X. Rhino gets one lick in, but the rest of the fight's in Spider-Man's favor. Rhino still won't tell Spider-Man where the Prometheum X is, so Spider-Man decides that since he won't tell him, the Rhino's worthless to him, and that means he's worthless to everybody. If I play along with the show, this moment is where Spider-Man truly turns terrifying with the black suit. Then, he's about to kill Rhino until he remembers everybody acting differently to him throughout the day, and it's because he's changed, not dumb, and he's changed for the worst. I personally wish it was that he remembers a very important message that with great power comes great responsibility. But they did that in the last episode with Doc Ock in episode 6. He leaves Rhino, who now can easily get away, and questions himself as he changes. Is it all because of the black suit? I love the flash of Venom at the end, a nice parallel of who he could become if he keeps acting like this. A fun parallel is that it is Eddie Brock's fault that the bad stuff is happening to Spider-Man now with the $1 million reward. Let's talk about the main villain of the episode, Rhino. Besides this episode and a brief appearance in part 3 of this episode trilogy, he didn't appear in this big of a role ever again. This role wasn't even that big to start with. He's regarded as a joke and a henchman for the Kingpin here, and nothing any bigger. The one time Rhino appeared was in the Sinister Six episodes after this. He stood out in those and was cool to watch and funny, but I feel he was sort of a wasted character in the show. Rhino in this episode is drawn really well. Whenever I imagine Rhino, this is the look of him. I wish the Rhino did show up more, but I guess he wasn't really needed or fit into a role somewhere else. More interesting like Scorpion under Shocker could have fit his role just as easily. And at the end, I still do have some questions about the Rhino, like his armor, his origin, and his real name. They don't tell us any of this in the episode. The black suit is really cool, so I must look at it, and this is my favorite look of the black suit in any media ever. The lights that make the costume look blue at times are perfect. The black suit has all the classic powers also, like making its own webbing and giving Spider-Man more agility and strength. He throws the Rhino around, and the Rhino must weigh tons, so it's definitely giving Peter Parker more of an I can do anything and I don't need nobody else feelings. The point of this episode was to introduce the black suit and show how badly it affects Peter Parker, and it did it perfectly. I mean, he even tortures Rhino, quote-unquote torture. Eddie Brock getting his job back is important, and the bounty on Spider-Man's head, but characters like Aunt May and definitely Felicia Hardy are worthless in this episode, I think. This episode has a lot of favoritism in it for me, but I am giving it a 9 out of 10. The non-Spider-Man parts are kind of dumb, I think, but I know they're necessary. They're just kind of boring. The Spider-Man scenes were some of the best in the show, but not the symbiote trilogy, I think. Please write your own thoughts down below. A huge thank you to King's Gaming for making this background for me. I really appreciate it. Please go check out his channel, and please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.